Hello, I'm Jeffrey Peterson, AFA MAC President at Alaska Airlines. Today is Thursday, November the 15th, 2012. We just wrapped up 3 days of negotiations at the Alaska Airlines Flight Operations and Training Center in Seattle. This was a very productive session. The company came well prepared and was very responsive to our proposals. So we thank those of you who wrote into management to encourage them to be prepared for us this time. No TAs this time, but we discussed a lot of sections, lots of improvements coming our way. And some of the sections in play are 8, 10, 11, 12, 16, and 32. We made a lot of progress in sections 8 to 12 as well as section 16. Some of the highlights include in section 8, hours of service, premium pay, so that would be double pay for any trip that touches over 12 hours and 30 minutes. As well as some improvements to the night rule. So if you've been flying all night long and you're projected to go over your duty day, which would be 10 hours and 30 minutes scheduled, that you would not be required to stay on the trip due to irregular operations. And if you did choose to do so, you could be subject to premium pay, and that would be double time. We're still fighting for increased remain overnight rest. That would be layover rest. We're looking for 1 more hour than the current language. And we are still hammering out an improved definition and clarification on contactability. So that would be contactability on layovers. In Section 10 scheduling, we are trying to streamline the language everywhere in the contract, and where we see that here in Section 10 is with like sequence. We're trying to make sure that like sequence is the same language used as much as possible throughout the contract. So we're still working on how those will play into Section 8 and Section 10. We are fighting for a guaranteed low bid, and that would be for a half-time line essentially, and there would be a cap put on that low bid. So if you were assigned the low bid, or if you're awarded the low bid rather, you could only pick up a few TFP above that. But again, we're looking to make sure that flight attendants can bid for and achieve a low bid option. Lots of improvements in deadheading in Section 10. We are still fighting for a guaranteed passenger seat if you're deadheading over 4 hours. If approved by scheduling, we have an agreement in concept that you can waive the first leg of your deadhead. So you have to call scheduling, and if they approve it, you would not be required to deadhead on the first leg of a sequence and still would be paid for the deadhead. If you are a scheduled deadhead and you are required to work for some reason, there will be a premium pay involved. That would be time and a half. And we have an agreement in concept that if you are an unscheduled deadhead, that is for anyone that's over minimum crew, you automatically are considered to be an unscheduled deadhead rather than being a working crew member as an extra. And that you could only be converted to an actual working crew member if you would be required to be used as one of the minimum crew members, so only if someone was sick or something like that. Otherwise, you would be always an unscheduled deadhead. I think that's a great improvement for the reserves in particular that are quite often added on as extras, extra working crew. Section 11, reserve. We are very close to in achieving a TA in this section, we believe. We are looking at eliminating the scheduled ER days altogether, so it would just be AM and PM reserve all the way across the board with a maximum of 2 conversions to ER, and it still would be required that there's ERs in play, but there's no scheduled ERs. You can only be converted twice in the entire month. We're fighting to recapture the pay when flown into one of your days off. We have agreed in concept to address the domicile rest for reserves to be the same as line holders. We are fighting for a limit of only 4 airport standby maximum per flight attendant per month. We have an agreement in concept on self-assignment so that reserves can pick up out of open time the day prior to the day of operation. And we are still in discussion about being able to trade reserve assignments between reserves of the same number of days of availability and with the same number of days in the pairing, as well as airport standby assignments. We think this is a huge possible improvement to the reserves and their quality of life. Section 12, exchange of sequences. Still lots of discussion about improving open time flexibility and transparency. Still too many sections or pieces in play in this section to tell exactly how this will play out, but we are still fighting to make sure we open up open time. However, one of the key points I'd like to put out there is that we have agreed in concept to jet bridge trading. What that means is that you would be able to break a sequence at any spot, that would be any station, with another flight attendant in the same domicile, except for those that are on international flights. So for instance, you could potentially break a trip in Hawaii or break a trip in Spokane or Phoenix, some of those places where we have a lot of commuters. We think there's a lot of potential for those flight attendants, and it's a great benefit to all flight attendants. Section 16, which is on-the-job injury and sick leave, we are looking at breaking the current sick leave bank into 2 different banks with the same accrual, which is 1 trip for every 10 flown between the 2 banks, with an option to cash out some of that sick leave after a certain amount of time vesting. So what we're looking at is that there is an incentive for us to accrue sick leave, use it judiciously, and if we have sick leave at the end of our careers when we decide to retire or separate, that we will be able to cash out some of that and take it with us in terms of in the form of compensation. Section 32, which is the attendance policy, we did exchange. We're still quite a ways apart in this section, and we expect to discuss that more perhaps in the next session. A couple other points of note. We've heard some concerns about the Section 9 junior available TA, and the negotiating committee is preparing a supplementary communication in regards to Section 9 to address some of those concerns and rumors, so be looking for that in the next week or two. And the last item to report on is the crew room visit. We said that we were going to bring management to the Seattle crew room to check out the new crew room there. We have decided not to do that this time. There was some very fruitful discussion with management about how they're going to fix this going forward, not just the Seattle crew room, but crew rooms all across the system. And they're looking at having a vendor do a study on how to properly allocate crew room space in the future. So this is still something that's in play, and we will reserve the possibility of taking management to the crew room. But for right now, we're seeing some movement on this issue, and we will report on that as we go forward. So that's it for now. It wraps up this session. The next negotiation session is December the 3rd through the 5th here in Seattle. In the meantime, make sure to wear your AFA pin, and if you have any questions or concerns, you can find us online at the Alaska Airlines Negotiations Facebook page, as well as the MEC website at www.alaskamec.org.